Thanks for joining us. My name is Kirsten, and this is my colleague, Jane.
Hi, everyone.
We're here today to discuss parcel management in multi-residential buildings. Before we get started, we're going to roll a 1-minute video demonstrating the whole process, the carrier deposit, and resident collection.
Any parcel carrier, food and laundry delivery, or a retailer's buy online, pick up in store order can be deposited to a Snaile locker. The depositor selects the compartment size and type, cold or not, based on the type of delivery. The depositor then selects the delivery address, order ID, or customer from the integrated directory, or can deposit straight to a cellular phone number. The available compartment in the required size and type opens automatically. The delivery is then deposited. When the door is closed, it locks automatically. The recipient receives a text message or an email with a QR pickup code and a unique passcode. The recipient then goes to the Snaile locker, scans their QR code for a contactless pickup, or enters their passcode. The recipient's compartment door opens automatically, and the delivery is collected. Once the door is closed, the process is now complete and is fully managed in the Snaile cloud. Snaile, the only smart lockers officially sanctioned by Canada's major parcel delivery companies, operating in 23 Canadian cities with an English, French, and Mandarin user interface. We are Canada's parcel locker company.
Okay, so let's begin by looking at the various types of deliveries. We have e-commerce sources selling goods or services using the internet, like Amazon, for example. We have pre-made meals like HelloFresh offering a meal kit delivery. And finally, growing in popularity are grocery deliveries, so fresh food, also something that's coming inbound to these multi-residential buildings. And now let's look right into the metrics of it all. So we look to Pitney Bowes Parcel Index. Their index measures parcel volume and spend for B2B, business to consumer, and C2B across 13 countries. We look to North American figures, and we see a prediction of growth rate of 17 to 28% each year between 2017 and 2021. With COVID, however, parcel shipments have far surpassed these predictions. They have reached 103 billion in volume globally, and Pitney Bowes forecast that it is likely to more than double by 2026. Okay, so we saw 3% growth year over year. All was fairly on par until 2018, 2019. But look at what actually happened when COVID hit. We saw in our own Snaile network an increase of 57% parcel volume. It's no surprise that growth in e-commerce is exploding with people working remotely now. And avoiding the traditional brick and mortar. It's said that e-com will be, if it isn't already, the largest retail channel by the end of the year. Now let's look at who is driving this growth. Millennials are now the largest cohort in the workforce compared to generations before them, with 36.8%. And because of their intuitive knowledge of all things technology, we see this cohort shopping online at higher rates than Gen Xers, baby boomers, and seniors, with 67% millennials. We will see yet another surge growth once the millennials move into the age demographic of 50 to 69 years, with their earning power being that much stronger. So trends are shifting toward, it's no surprise, an explosion of inbound parcels to multi-residential buildings. And now Jane will discuss inbound parcel deliveries in these spaces and the issues inherent with them.
Great. So now that Kirsten has described the current landscape as far as the parcels are concerned, arriving at multi-residential spaces, we're going to have a look at some of the specific challenges that these buildings are facing. So obviously, we've got the propensity for online shopping among the ever important millennials, and coupled with the requirement for contactless delivery as much as possible in this post-COVID world we're currently living in and likely will be for the foreseeable future. So the collision of those two factors has meant that multi-residential spaces are all dealing with an unyielding tidal wave, essentially, of parcels. And so here we are, and we're going to take a look at what this looks like from building to building. So in the first scenario, we're looking at some buildings. These are actual site photographs, and these are buildings with concierge staff. So even those buildings that have staff behind the desk, in some cases, a few personnel sitting behind the desk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's still not enough to sort of ebb the flow of parcels that are arriving on a daily basis, especially now that a lot of people have moved to a work from home situation. That increases the number of parcels arriving several fold. So what you're finding are areas that are littered with parcels. You're finding staff that are overwhelmed. They can't attend to residents with the care and time that they would otherwise. And there are also obviously some security concerns around this type of scenario, in that the concierge staff may not be able to be present constantly. And if they have to step away from their desk, obviously this is an invitation for theft and a host of other issues that can arise. So it's estimated, in fact, that the concierge and security staff that are held responsible for dealing with the parcels can spend up to 10 minutes per parcel. That comes with accepting it, signing for it, locating the intended recipient, sometimes storing it until they become available to collect it. So it can amount to 10 minutes a parcel, and that's time that they can't spend, obviously, assisting residents with other needs. Now we're looking at scenario 2. This is a building without concierge or security staff on site. In this case, the carriers can be locked outside and therefore can't complete the delivery. Instead, they leave the dreaded delivery notice card. So not only is it unsightly to have all of these notices plastered all over the glass vestibule or door, it also frustrates residents when they come home to find the notice card, and then they are bound to the operating hours of the carrier's depot, and they've got to go sometimes quite a distance to collect their parcel. As well, obviously, there is the issue of these notice cards potentially getting lost and someone not being alerted to the fact that they have a delivery at all. And again, we're dealing with security concerns. Here's another example of a building that is not staffed by concierge. This has caused a new phenomenon called buzzer bombing. There are a lot of freelance drivers now who are being paid by the parcel. And what they will do in order to gain access to a building is they will buzz numerous residents, many of whom don't even have a delivery, in the hopes of gaining access from someone. They will slip in when a resident is entering or exiting. And this can lead to unwanted foot traffic throughout the building. They may go directly to the units. Otherwise, they may drop the parcels in the lobby, again, leaving them unsecured and at risk for theft or damage or any number of concerns. And there's absolutely no tracking those parcels once they've been dropped that way. Here's an example of a building without a concierge. As you can see, this large box being left in a common area poses a number of problems. The first of which is potential theft. The other is damage. If somebody walks by and kicks it, it looks like a fresh delivery, one of those meal kit services. If somebody's curiosity gets the better of them and the box is opened, it's clearly then been tampered with, and no one is going to want to then use the contents of that. And lastly, the property management company opens themselves up to numerous liability concerns when a situation like this happens, not only around theft and damage, but it becomes a tripping hazard. If somebody falls, there are liability issues there. And it also serves as a potential fire code violation. So fire code violations are very costly to buildings. And if the fire department were to come along, this is a ticketable offense. here we are, we're looking at a traditional mail room. And as you can see, in addition to the slots for letter mail, there are very small, modest boxes devoted to parcels. As anyone familiar with the current online shopping landscape can attest, those boxes, the size of them will not accommodate the majority of parcels that are arriving these days. And therefore, as you can see, they're left on the floor, again, opening up the property management company, the building staff, to the possibility of theft, damage, fire code violations. Circling back to fire code violations, the legislation has recently been updated so that property management companies who are repeat offenders can be fined as much as $100,000. So this is obviously a very costly liability and something that all buildings would want to eliminate. And here are a few photos of hallway and vestibule deliveries, again, leading to possible fire code, egress, and combustibles violations and fines. So now we're going to look at a solution. Now that we've gone over the problems, we're going to look at a solution to the avalanche of parcels that are being felt by the multi-residential stakeholders in the form of the Snaile Parcel Locker. So this is a Snaile Parcel Locker. They are customizable and modular. They can service buildings big or small, and they can be interior or exterior. They accept all carrier deliveries, so we like to call them carrier agnostic, meaning all of the major carrier companies, in fact, all of the major carrier companies in Canada have approved of and endorsed Snaile, and all deliver to the Snaile lockers. So again, they can accept deliveries from all carriers. They're not just exclusive to one or two. It's a fully automated process. So the carrier arrives at the Snaile locker and using the touchscreen pad selects their language of choice. The Snaile interface is bilingual across the country and in some sites is in fact trilingual, so English, French, and Mandarin. The carrier selects their language, performs the deposit. If they have several deposits, they can perform all deposits in one designated space, again, eliminating foot traffic throughout the building, and they can complete a dozen deliveries in a minute or two. As soon as the compartment door closes, the resident receives a text message or an email alerting them to the fact that there is a delivery on site for them, and they can pick it up at their convenience. So there's no more being bound to the operational hours of a carrier company. In addition to the fully automated text message or email alerting them of the delivery, when they go to collect, they can either enter the PIN that's sent to them via email or text using the touch screen, or they can scan the QR code using the infrared scanner at the bottom of the terminal screen, which allows for an entirely contactless collection process. This obviously removes a lot of work from the concierge. The 10-minute per parcel statistic that we looked at earlier is virtually eliminated, and concierge and security staff can focus their attention on other resident needs. It obviously eliminates theft, liability, and fire code issues by containing all of the parcels securely in an industrial-grade stainless steel secure locker that can only be accessed with the one-time PIN or QR code sent directly to the recipient. Now, Snaile, as I mentioned, has been fully endorsed by all major carrier companies in Canada. In addition, the Snaile lockers are driven by the Snaile Cloud. So it's cloud-based software that integrates seamlessly with a number of other platforms. So if we're looking at property management software, API software, for example, or apps that certain property management companies have on board, Snaile integrates seamlessly with those platforms. So functions such as roster updates happen effortlessly and automatically on a perpetual and ongoing basis.
Okay, I'll take over here. We're going to look at what residents want. What do residents want? We conducted a resident survey in 2019 and found that parcel delivery was 8th most important among 40 other amenity offerings from a building perspective. Security is one. Parcel security is paramount to us, and we take it very seriously. So this new system is a way to ensure that the parcels are housed securely and safely under surveillance, and they're available for collection at the resident's own time. We found also that 87% of residents in purpose-built rental buildings said parcel acceptance is mandatory, and we found 92% of those residents from condo dwellers expected this amenity. It's the convenience factor. Residents expect parcels will be received at the building. This way, too, the resident no longer has to travel to the nearest depot and be bound to the depot's hours of operation for collecting those parcels. And finally, we found 47% of respondents said that it's not necessary to have refrigerated lockers. Prepared foods now come in insulated boxes, and deliveries are typically scheduled ahead of time with the residents. Having said that, the system, as Jane pointed out earlier, is modular and allows for future expansion should residents' needs change. We're going to go through a few gallery images and briefly touch on some key points and key features. Built Canada tough. So these Snaile parcel lockers outside can withstand minus 40 degrees for these outdoor applications, and they are double coated. This here is an image of a outdoor shelter and locker system in Montreal. And what they did, because it was an old building, they had no real estate or footprint dedicated to a parcel locker area. So they have elected to position it in the driveway leading up to the building, the front doors of the building. Other creative solutions we found, people convert, say, for example, outdoor bike storage spaces and convert those into parcel locker areas. Here we have a profile image showing the QR scan area, also where the carrier, if they choose to scan their parcel, can do so. Each carrier has their own customized workflow. So for those carriers that prefer to have that scanned parcel in the system, they can do so at this spot. Here we're showing another color. We've seen two darker featured lockers. Snaile has available 213 colors in an industrial powder coated finish in the RAL K7 color palette. The color fan deck is available. We do have custom colors as well. Sky's the limit. We can also wrap the lockers. We've had a customer want to clad their locker in a walnut wrap to match the walnut finish in the main lobby. We're finding that bank systems are becoming quite the trend. This is in a downtown Toronto space just off the lobby right by the elevator. So it's double-sided. The residents can walk around and collect from all sides. Another example of a bank unit with the far left being a refrigerated area. So I'll just jump in now with some frequently asked questions. One question I often get is, what differentiates Snaile from the competition? Snaile has the largest Canadian network operating in 25 cities in English, French, and Mandarin. We are not a reseller, and we will not send our customers somewhere else for support. We assemble, ship, install, and fully support the lockers right here in Canada. We also host our data in Canada, and that means that we're compliant with Canada's privacy and security laws. Unlike some of our other suppliers who host data in the US and therefore circumvent Canadian laws. Snaile also assigns an onboarding specialist, which then in turns becomes a dedicated representative for each site. to ensure the install and the launch of these smart parcel lockers is a success. And by success, we mean the ability to communicate to those major carriers across Canada who've all approved the Snaile system. And we communicate when a building goes live. And we also educate those carriers as to the location of the locker within the buildings themselves. And we walk them through a typical deposit workflow. We're also there too to field any inquiries the residents may have and to train the staff on the features and functions of the Snaile Cloud, the software that provides all the information and intel about the locker contents. Another question that often comes up is how do we determine how many lockers a building may need? We do an audit of sorts where we obtain information regarding the total unit count, the demographic, and the location of the locker to provide that best recommendation for that locker configuration in order to meet the demands of the resident population. And a final question, I'll just wrap up here with, do residents have to pay for this service, and how does it work? So no, it's a free amenity that the building offers their residents to gain that competitive advantage over other buildings. So this amenity is at no charge. And as Jane has walked through earlier, it's a simple deposit collection where the carrier makes the deposit, and the process is such that the resident then gets real-time, one-time unique access code to make that collection at their own time.
So now I'm going to touch on some of the frequently asked questions that are thrown my way from time to time. I have heard some people remark that the top compartments look quite high, and I have been asked about residents who may require the use of a mobility device, for example. So touching back to the Snaile Cloud that we talked about, the lockers are driven by cloud-based software that we call the Snaile Cloud. The cloud serves as a site administrator's X-ray vision into what's going on in the locker. So they can see when deliveries happen, for what units they happened. They can also see which compartments are full, which ones are empty, things of that nature. Basically, anything and everything related to the activity at the locker can be accessed by site administrators on the cloud. So using that software, when an administrator is setting up a user profile for a resident, for example, there is a setting with just a click of a button allowing for wheelchair access. And by clicking that setting, essentially when a carrier, as shown, goes to deliver a parcel for a particular unit where that setting has been enabled, only the bottom half of the compartments will open when any carrier shows up to deposit something. So that means when that resident goes to collect their parcel, they don't have to enlist anybody's help to retrieve their belongings. I also get asked frequently, how long can a parcel stay in the locker? And the answer to this question is actually twofold. Basically, it is up to each individual site or property management company to write their own policies and protocol around the lockers. Sometimes it takes operating them for a few weeks and or a couple of months to determine exactly how best it's going to work for a particular site. However, we as onboarding specialists and later sort of dedicated account managers, as Kirsten referenced, are always there to provide recommendations and best practices based on our experience. So on that note, we recommend that carriers are strongly encouraged to collect parcels within 48 hours. And we do that obviously because we don't want the lockers to serve as storage compartments, and the compartments need to be freed up for subsequent deliveries. So we're always a phone call or an email away to provide property management personnel with our recommendations. But again, the amenity belongs to the building, and it's up to the building to use it and write policies around it that serve them as only they will know. Only they will know exactly what works best for their team and their residents. And lastly, we're sometimes asked about what to do if someone has a problem depositing or collecting a parcel. So anytime we're dealing with technology of any kind, if a challenge arises, there needs to be help close at hand. So on each and every terminal screen, there is a 1-800 number and an email, and both can be accessed by residents, property management personnel, and carriers. And they are invited to contact our support center 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for any challenge they might be experiencing. If an access code, just for example, if an access code has been accidentally deleted, the agents answering the phone will simply resend it through the Snaile cloud at any time of day or night. And if the challenge being experienced requires more assistance than what the agent is able to provide, and this could happen, for example, if it's a privacy issue or parcel security issue, the agents on the front lines have somewhat limited capacity. They can't update contact information, for example. That needs to be vetted by the property management personnel. So if that were the case, they would escalate the call to an account manager, and the concern would be addressed within hours. And so essentially, in a nutshell, that is the Snaile Parcel Locker. We're gonna circle back to the video that we saw at the beginning for those who may have joined us a little later on in the presentation.
Any parcel carrier, food and laundry delivery, or a retailer's buy online, pick up in store order can be deposited to a Snaile locker. The depositor selects the compartment size and type, cold or not, based on the type of delivery. The depositor then selects the delivery address, order ID, or customer from the integrated directory, or can deposit straight to a cellular phone number. The available compartment in the required size and type opens automatically. The delivery is then deposited. When the door is closed, it locks automatically. The recipient receives a text message or an email with a QR pickup code and a unique passcode. The recipient then goes to the Snaile locker, scans their QR code for a contactless pickup, or enters their passcode. The recipient's compartment door opens automatically, and the delivery is collected. Once the door is closed, the process is now complete and is fully managed in the Snaile cloud. Snaile, the only smart lockers officially sanctioned by Canada's major parcel delivery companies, operating in 23 Canadian cities with an English, French, and Mandarin user interface. We are Canada's parcel locker company.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. We hope you found it informative. If you have any further questions, please visit snailelockers.com and get in touch with us.